What a day yesterday wound up being. Hello and welcome to the walk-off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, normally joined by Adam Mack. And I know we had a bunch of messages yesterday being like, where are you guys? Gotta hear from you. Some of the biggest news to either happen or not happen just dropped today. What are your thoughts? Adam Mack had food poisoning and is still on his ass right now. Really bad timing, but I figured I better go solo here because it is a mailbag Monday on a Tuesday afternoon, pushed to a Wednesday afternoon, and so much has happened, and you folks got to get your voice heard. So here we go, going solo. Few things to touch on before we get into all of your questions. Number one, you can always reach out on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, Blue Sky, the Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. If you are on YouTube, drop your comments right here. Remember to also hit that like button. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. Patreon automatically gets their questions and comments into the mailbag. It's one of their perks. We do have a couple new Patreon members, so a very hearty thank you to, sorry, here we go, Floyd T. and Maria Pilford. So Maria and Floyd, welcome to the Patreon. Of course, you automatically get your comments in the mailbag. One last thing before we dive in, okay? Baseball Town is back and it's going to be in Toronto all summer long. I've got the dates locked in at the Comedy Bar. And if you are going to be at spring training, oh my goodness, we have a mega show going on there at Wood Right Brewing. I will put the ticket link in the top comment right now. If you are going to be at the Disneyland for Blue Jays fans, which is Dunedin, Florida, where they go to do their spring training, well, we have one heck of a show for you. Our panel is going to be none other than Ben Nicholson Smith from Sportsnet and At the Letters. We've got the man, the legend, friend of the show, Keegan Matheson, who has just announced pre-sales for his book. The franchise are officially available. That is going to be released in June. I think it's the 3rd. That's going to be an amazing read. So Ben and Keegan are stars on the panel, and then we also have a player panel going on beforehand, which I'm very excited about. We're going to have one of the Blue Jays' top prospects, Alan Roden. We're going to have the one and the only Chad Dallas, who we just released his episode a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, I should say, where he really dives into his Tommy John surgery. So that is going to be a lot of fun to chat with him there. And then Riley Terada, Buffalo Bison's first and third baseman, most likely making his major league debut. Knock on wood that it's not because of injury or anything like that, but we all know that's how baseball works. So a great little player panel. Again, going to be running this in Toronto at the Comedy Bar. April 17th is going to be the first Toronto show, so you can keep your eyes open for those tickets. All right, folks, on that, let's dive in. It is time. This is going to be the Vladdy of it all. We have so many Vladdy questions and obviously comments. I can't get to them all. Doing my best, though. And this is how we're going to start the show. A very Vladdy heavy show to start. Frustration and disappointment hangs in the air here Wednesday, February 19th. Obviously, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. set a deadline for his extension. He did not want to negotiate into spring training into the 2025 season, and that is where we're at now. A day after the deadline, the Toronto Blue Jays front office, Rogers, the ownership, Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro of that front office just couldn't get it done. Vladdy had his number. The Blue Jays have their evaluation because, of course, they do. And, of course, they stuck to it. So, the day after, and these are some of the comments we are getting. To start with, we're kicking it off with Patreon. The Patreon bump automatically gets you into the mailbag. This one is from Lauren Stewart. He goes, for Monday morning mailbag, I feel sick to my stomach. Like I saw Baseball Gen just say, fire everyone. Top five payroll be damned. This sucks. And yeah, that kind of nails the emotion of a lot of the fans going on right now. Is just a feeling of doom, sick to your stomach. Listen, this team for 2025 isn't any better or worse after that deadline. They're still in line to most likely, without a bunch of bad shit happening, competing for the final wild card. Obviously, they're a couple injuries away from being much worse, and who knows, a couple of call ups that actually succeed for a change away from being a decent team. So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, pretty upsetting to see a player of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s ilk not be able to come to terms with Toronto, the organization that developed him, that signed him, that he came up in, where he was born. Like people forget, right? Vladdy was born in Canada, in Montreal, while his dad was playing with the Expos. I know that he's Dominican through and through, but still, the fact that he has so many ties to the Blue Jays, it is tough to watch the Jays chase all these other bells of the ball, right? And then once they get to their own homegrown talent, not be able to do it. And we are going to dive more in. Obviously, this isn't about yes or no. There's a gray area here. What was the number? We don't know. And that's the shittiest thing about being a fan. We really don't know the details here because I think we all heard David Ortiz come out on foul territory and say that he felt that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. deserved a $13,585,000,000 contract. We don't know if that was the number. Odd that he would just bring that up out of nowhere. And if that's the case, then it's not that the Blue Jays didn't go to 450 or whatever we thought that they were going to be. It's that Vladdy's number was much larger than maybe we anticipated. Going to Mish. She says, it feels like the front office blinked. Vlad's team agent saw an opportunity. The goalposts moved, front office balked, and a fans be damned game of chicken played out while we all uncomfortably slept, tossed, turned in anticipation of the impending doom of this morning. Of course, that was yesterday morning when we found out. And honestly, Misha's sentiment is what a lot of us are feeling, right? Again, just bewilderment that we can't get this done, frustration. I thought diving into this might be easier the next day. Still pretty raw here, folks. So this is from Mike. He says, this feels very familiar. It's like they get to being within one move of being in good shape and then never put that final piece in place. It's frustrating and it's becoming the calling card of the Atkins offseason. I'm so disappointed, man. I was really hopeful they'd finish the jigsaw this year. It really felt right on the cusp. I don't even know what to say at this point. This lies with ownership. Obviously, Ed Rogers didn't feel that this was the place to go all in. It's frustrating to watch Mark Shapiro not get it done. He's the president of our baseball operations. This is the guy who has, of all of the things being said about him, when it comes to the positives, everyone brings up he is able to get the ownership to open their purse strings. Right? That's the big benefit of Mark Shapiro is that he somehow has that corporate speak down with Rogers Communication, can go into that boardroom, be like, listen, Juan Soto is the best bad right fielder who's going to be a DH at 29, and we should pay him $750 million. And they're in a bidding war with the Mets. And I know they lose out, but that's a lot of money to say yes, okay to. And then to not be prepared to pay your homegrown talent. And listen, I know that there's a number that is too much and wouldn't be worth it. And maybe that's what happened. But it does feel like Ross Atkins, after hitting on every girl at the bar, goes back to his wife and says, hey, baby, you're coming home with me, right? The grass is always greener is a syndrome that I have accused this front office of having numerous times. I talked about the small microcosm of it with guys like Hagen Danner, where you DFA him when you have a need in the bullpen, and then the Seattle Mariners, one of the best bullpens in baseball last year, swoops in and grabs him for nothing. Again, I've already expressed that I'm well aware that this Hagen Danner move is irrelevant for the most part, but it does kind of give an example of what this front office does, which is take a look at their homegrown talent, at what they've got in house, and then start looking over the neighbor's yard, being like, oh, what's going on over there? And maybe there are some hurt feelings between this front office and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Maybe Vladdy watched what they did with Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto, and even to an extent Corbin Burns. And then is curious, why not me? Right? He's human. He's 25. He's got a bit of an ego. All good ball players do. All good athletes do. Greg Kennedy sent in a one-word message over Twitter. Fuck. Short, concise, to the point. Nailed it, Greg. Mark Draper says Ross Atkins can't give their franchise player the extra 5 to 10 million per year because he needs that money for Miles Straw. See, there is bitterness in this fan base, and there should be. And this is where we're at, folks. All of these emotions you're feeling, everything that you are going through, all the frustration towards this team front office, it is absolutely 100% deserved. We should be upset. We should be frustrated. We should be asking for accountability. We should be wondering what the future holds. It feels like there's no plan because this front office constantly seems to twist and turn in the wind whenever they get dealt another bump in the road or another blow. All of a sudden they're chasing something else. I know I'm not being level-headed, by the way. This is one day later. I really thought I'd have more of a centered view of this, but I'm frustrated. I look at what's going on. Like, if we lose Vladdy and Bo for nothing, burn it down. Burn the whole thing down. Gut the whole fucking thing, man. Seriously. I mean, I have been very vocal, and so is Mr. Mack here on the walk-off. After last year, that was the final straw. Ross and Mark should have been replaced. Hell, I kind of felt like that after 2023, but they did have the wild card, making the wild card to hang their hat on, because this is a front office that moves their goalpost. What is their goal? World Series, supposedly. And then all we hear about is the playoffs they've made in the wild card. And I will say this, okay? Everyone's saying that Vladdy should have been signed already. I don't know if that's the mistake to pick at here because there weren't a lot of windows for them to get it done. Now, obviously, hindsight's 2020, and after that 2021 season, they should have overpaid for Vladdy then. They probably could have locked him up for $300 million, and we'd be laughing right now. And that's probably what should have gone down. And yes, with these mega contracts, there's absolutely a threading the needle of the risk you've got to do as a general manager to make it worth it. Because there is risk on the player's side too, locking up for so long, especially if there's not an opt-out. We've watched what these mega contracts have done over the last half a decade to a decade, which is just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So guys are leaving money on the table at times. But there's always the risk of the front office as well. And so you need to kind of find that middle ground. And the Blue Jays never managed to do it. There wasn't a window after 2022 because Vladdy had taken such a step back, even though he still had a decent enough season, right? I think he had 32 bombs and 100 RBIs, and it was just such a step down from 2021 where he was chasing 50 dingers. And then we're well aware of what happened in 2023, right? His mom got sick, he slumped heavily. He didn't even hit 30 dingers, and he was scrutinized constantly, and the kid kind of buckled. And then what a resurgence last year. So where is the window for him to be signed? It was just overpaying for him in 2021, which wouldn't be an overpay anymore. I don't know, folks. This is from Patreon. Ian commented on the Friday show. I think Max has so much free stuff, he just grabbed a bag out of the closet. At least at this point in his career, a bag is a bag. Zero fucks. That's why I'm going to love him as a J. So Adam and I were talking about Max Scherzer and how it kind of rubbed us the wrong way that he showed up with a Texas Rangers bag. Both of us said we're well aware it's just like a veteran movie, probably just doesn't give a crap, right? And that seems to be the sentiment of most of the fan base here. Some of you were more upset than we were and was like, that was BS. Some of you were like, it is the giantest nothing burger. The fact you guys are even upset about it, you're blowing it out of proportion. So those are kind of the wide range of emotions on that one. So that's what Ian's talking on here. This one is from Alan Kaufman. He goes, listening to the mailbag, and we're having the wrong conversation regarding Miles Straw. He can't play before September. And when he says he can't play before September, he just means he should not be on this team before September. Then he says, but if they are playoff bound and squeak into that final wild card, he could be an interesting call-up to steal a couple bases. He does have great speed, great on the base path, by the way, and play a smidge of shutdown defense. So in the most positive world possible, Miles Straw is useful come playoffs. I like that twist, Alan. Sticking with Twitter. Mental Myopia tweeted at us. He goes, please shout out Kawasaki next mailbag. Jays fans need happy news as the Vlad doom clock ticks down and we miss out. MLB is often tainted by bullshit, commercialism, salaries, owners, agents, CBA, Manfred, Boris. He really has a list of the downfalls of baseball here. He's like, Kawasaki represents all that is good within baseball. Kawasaki loves the game, wants to keep playing, and gets to represent his country while doing it. Just pure baseball. He was at the Caribbean World Series, by the way, representing Japan just recently is what he's talking about here. He's like, I don't know Japanese or Spanish, but this legend still managed to get me to smile and laugh in this very recent interview. And then he posted a YouTube video there of Kawasaki, Munenori Kawasaki, former Blue Jay. Everyone loves those interviews that he did. They still circle the internet in viral circles for baseball. Caribbean series he was at. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. All right. This one is from Julia Brookson. She messaged us. She goes, hey guys, less than a week to some spring training. What's the one thing you guys want to see from this team during spring training? Well, Julia, not to be a wet blanket and completely pick the most obvious thing, but health. Let these guys stay healthy. Spring training numbers mean absolutely jack squat, and what we cannot have happening is some of these guys coming into camp and getting injured. So that would be success to me. is as few injuries as absolutely possible. I know we've already seen some tweaks, some bumps, some bruises. Some guys have been shut down, especially pitchers. I know Eric Swanson, Adam Kloffenstein. Some of these boys, as soon as you start ramping up, you feel some pain, you get some inflammation, whatever it may be. So again, the positive for this spring training would be health. Okay, we are going to go to the YouTube side of things. I know I've been a little all over the place this episode. I really can't stop thinking about just the Blue Jays missing out on Vladdy like they did. It's really frustrating. I'm gonna read you. My buddy was messaging about this, and it does kind of make me laugh what he was saying, right? Because he goes, um, everyone is so angry at Ross Atkins, and they should be, but also he's just the girl at the Wendy's counter. If anything, ownership should be blamed for not ponying up. And I kind of like this message just because I think that's where we're at with Ross Atkins. I think Ross has proven, even to ownership, that he doesn't get it done when they need him to. And his power has been taken away. And now he is just the Wendy's counter girl. And he needs to check with the manager to make sure he's doing his job properly. And this is why the anger at Atkins right now maybe is misdirected. Maybe we should be angrier at Mark Shapiro. Maybe we should be angrier at Ed Rogers and at Rogers Communication in general. Grounds crew members, question for you here. Should we be mad at Vladdy? Is there people out there that are like that greedy SOB? He probably should have signed. And I would love to hear from those people. We'll tackle this on Friday. I'm also curious if maybe because there's plenty of blame to go around, right? By the way, when I say Ross Atkins isn't to be blamed, I mean that in the most disrespectful way possible. Hopefully, the Wendy's counter girl comment got that through. But like, I just, even though I'm not blaming Ross, I blame him for plenty of other stuff. He's just messed up so much over the last decade that all of his privileges have been taken away from him. So we'll see what you think here, folks. Is any of this on Vladdy? Let us know. Drop a comment. Going to YouTube. Uh, this one is from Marshall66. This one is about the Max Scherzer bringing in a Texas Rangers bag to start the spring training, which we talked about pretty extensively last Friday. He goes, "It's literally just a bag, lol. He will show up in a day or two with his new Blue Jays bag, and they will post photos of his new bag, and life goes on. This has no impact on anyone or anything, lol." Which, I mean, I agree. It rubbed me the wrong way. He brought a Texas Ranger bag to spring training, but also I'm well aware it is irrelevant. Mantis Toboggan, Doctor, a longtime walk-off listener and fan. He always comments on YouTube, and we love to have his thoughts and comments whenever we see them. He goes, "I don't consider myself smart enough to be grounds crew, but I did hear something on the Texas bag thing from Foul Territory and AJ Pierzynski, as another player did the same thing. Can't remember who. According to him, this is about as big of a nothing burger as can be. He said most players after signing with a new organization use a bag they just already have to show up to spring training, often from another team. So yeah, absolutely nothing to read into here, although I will say it is weird that teams can't just send a new bag to players they sign, but maybe the players just don't care enough since it's just a bag." Larry Gorst reached out and said, "Fun show, guys. Well done. I enjoyed. Thanks for sharing." So no problem, Larry. Always nice to get a little positive feedback every once in a while. Moving along here. Now I know I'm ripping through this mailbag here. We're getting to as many as possible. I'm back on the road. I play Southern Alberta over the weekend here, so I head to Calgary this afternoon and start the run there. Always appreciate you folks reaching out. Apologies, Adam Mack is on his ass sick. Again, the whole reason we didn't do this show yesterday is that he really wanted to have his say. He wanted to be involved in mailbag, and he figured if we just kicked it one more day down the road, his food poisoning would be done. And he messaged me this morning and he was like, bro, I think it's gotten worse. So hopefully, Mr. Mack is on the mend and feeling better here soon. And he joins us on Friday, and we'll get to hear from him on then. Hear from him on Vladdy then. There, those are all the words in the correct order. Perfect. This is from Boom Must Die. Mailbag question. Does Bo see any time at another position other than shortstop this season? Not DH. This is a really interesting question. And I hadn't put a lot of thought into it, but he does bring up, or they do bring up, a very good point. Andre Jimenez, one of the best middle infielders defensively in all of baseball. The man plays a mean shortstop, a much better defensive shortstop than Bo Bichette. Now, where is this front office on reuniting with an extension on Bo? I know that the fan base is split between Bo's already out the door, he's checked out, he doesn't give a shit, to how can we judge Bo on his facial expressions? Can't we just judge him on what he says, which has only been he wants to come back to Toronto, he wants to stay with Vladdy, he wants to be here long term. So we don't know. All we do know is that they have not even talked extension, which does make sense because Bo had such a horrible season last year. Who wants to extend and lock in long term after a down year? It would make no sense for his camp to take any sort of less in pay because of last year, especially when you look at 2021 and 2022, where he led the league in hits, just finished just below the top guy in 2023, and it's because of the injury. Probably would have done it 3 years in a row. So we're looking at a bounce back for Bo. And how badly does Bo want to play shortstop? My guess is very badly, because coming into free agency, if you're playing even an average shortstop and hitting well, I mean, look around the league. We're well aware of what guys like Trey Turner and Corey Seager get. So I'm not saying Bo Bichette is in those two's realm, but is there a world where Bo has a good season and makes well over $200 million? Yeah, absolutely there is. So I don't think that we're going to see any extension talks until at least mid-season, if Bo is doing really well, and then his camp can, hold the Jays front office feet to the fire and see what they can do there. So I bring all of that up to get back to the question of, will Bo Bichette see time at another position? Now, here is the thing. The best thing for this team would probably be for Bo to play second base. And that has been the case for some time now. And this organization has really been hesitant to do so because they don't want to make Bo upset. They do not want him to be malcontent going into extension talks or whatever it is that their plan is for Bo Bichette. So are they at the point now, with 1 year left, if they get a feeling that he is just going to test free agency no matter what, will they do what's best for the team and put him at second base, playing their best defensive shortstop at the highest value position for him? I don't know. They haven't yet. What do you ground crew members think? Should Bo Bichette play second base even if it upsets him? Like, where are you at? Do you think trying to still show Bo some respect and show you want him, do you think that's a value right now? Or with the way this 2025 season's lined up, this is do or die. This is the only year we're going to have where we're probably not rebuilding back up. Where are you at? is it best to move Bo? Carrying on. This is our final question of the mailbag. This is from Scott Carter. He says, I'm pretty sure the front office has achieved what they wanted with Vlad. They have done enough to be able to claim with a straight face that they tried. I don't believe and have never believed that they had any intention of signing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I don't think it fits into how this front office values talent and the kind of contracts they want to sign. And that feels like a negative take. However, I will say to Mr. Scott Carter in that comment, he's just judging on what he's seen. This is just looking at this front office and their past behavior and betting on the fact that they are going to continue to do what they've always done. Do I hope it changes? Absolutely. Would I love to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. locked up long term? I sure do. But I think it's going to take until free agency before we even get a sniff of what actually is happening. I think this front office feels like he is going to need to take less in the open market. And maybe that's why they're letting him walk, why they're letting him go to free agency, is that they truly believe that the whatever, let's put a fake number to it because we don't know. Again, that's the frustrating thing here. So let's say they offered him $430 million. Vladdy wanted 580. There's a $140 million discrepancy there. And the Blue Jays, the reason that they said no and the reason they're going to free agency, is they truly believe come next offseason that there aren't going to be offers above what they have just put in. That or they just don't care. The grass is greener. They figure they'll find their superstar from someone else's team and they'll open the purse strings, pay $700 million for whoever Boston has developed or whatever, and go about their business that way, which has been the way they've been operating lately, trying to get everyone else's prettiest girl. Here we are. Did that sound bitter? Do I sound upset? I'm not happy. And even though this 2025 season is honestly looking no different for players than it did 48 hours ago, it feels more bleak. Vladdy not being locked up, doesn't it? Drop your comments, folks. Thanks so much for following along. We really do appreciate it. Sorry we missed you yesterday. Again, was really hoping that Adam would feel better and we could do this show together, but not the way she rolled. Sometimes things don't work out as you want them to. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a perfect example of that. Take care, everybody. We will see you on Friday.